The room itself was a perfect cube, 12 feet by 12 feet by 12 feet. The walls, floors, and ceiling were covered in a matte black polymer that absorbed sound, vibration, and light so completely that even a hand being held inches from your face vanished. There were no corners, just seamless curves where the walls met, nowhere for sound to collect. No echoes, no airflow, no hum of machinery. The air was recycled through vents so small it couldn't be felt. Food and water were delivered through a slot that never made a sound when it opened. Only sensors hidden beneath the padding that track heart rate, oxygen levels, brain activity, and any subtle movements. If something moved in that room, the sensors would know. There are blueprints, of course, thick yellowed pages stamped with official seals and signatures from departments that no longer exist. Some of them date back decades, others appear to have been printed years later using different formatting, different fonts, even different languages. One version calls it a medical unit, designed for extreme sensory deprivation therapy. Others labeled as behavioral research lab. One particularly old file refers to it as a containment unit. But what was contained there? The protocol was developed after researchers observed something deeply unsettling in people who experience prolonged isolation. They call it third man syndrome. Experienced commonly by submariners lost at sea, Arctic researchers trapped by winter storms, prisoners who are held in solitary confinement for months or years. They didn't just hallucinate, they felt something. They felt watched. Not by an imagined figure, not by a voice or a face, but by something positioned just outside of the edge of perception. Something close enough to feel, but never close enough to see. Government funded, of course, the Quiet Room Protocol was created to study that sensation. Not with drugs, not with sleep deprivation, not with torture. Just nothing. No light, no sound, no human contact, no sense of time. The idea was simple. If the brain stripped of all stimulation created a presence, then maybe that presence could finally be observed. The first subject was a willing volunteer. A man in his late 30s, physically healthy, no psychiatric history, high tolerance for isolation, former submarine operator. He joked with the researchers during intake, asking how long he'd be in the box, and requested a book. They denied the request. "You won't need it," they said. For the first 48 hours, everything was normal. His heart rate was elevated but steady. His breathing was slow. He paced the room, he stretched. He talked to himself quietly, narrating his thoughts as if trying to anchor them to something real. "At some point, they'll knock," he murmured. "They'll say, 'Time's up. I just have to wait.'" At hour 63, he stopped speaking. At hour 70, the sensors recorded the first anomaly. A sudden, sharp spike in neural activity consistent with recognition. Not fear, not stress, but recognition. As if his brain had suddenly identified something it had been waiting for. At hour 72, he began whispering. The microphones within the room barely picked it up, just fragments of breath, broken syllables that didn't quite form words. Linguists would later argue for years over whether it was even language. At hour 81, he screamed. Not in panic, not in pain. It was a scream someone makes when another person steps too close. When personal space is violated. When something is suddenly there. When the researchers spoke to him through the intercom, his reply was calm. "Someone is standing very close to me," he said. "I can't see them, but they're hiding something." They asked him what was being hidden. He didn't answer. The subject had to be removed shortly after. A code purple had to be called. It took 4 guards and a strong sedative, strong enough to stop his heart if dosed improperly. He was different after those 81 hours. He refused to enter dark rooms. He slept with every light on and every door open. Later, during an interview, he described the experience as the most horrific thing a human brain can experience. He's been off-grid since. The second and third subjects followed a similar pattern. Different people, different timelines, same results every time. A presence. Always silent, always close, always hiding something. The ethics board was prepared to shut down the program when the subject 4 got approved. She was petite, a muscular woman, diagnosed with synesthesia. Synesthesia is a neurological condition that leads to involuntary experiences, such as perceiving colors as sounds and associating different feelings and tastes with certain words or numbers. She claimed that darkness had a weight, and silence had a texture. At first, the researchers thought this made her a poor candidate, but they were wrong. For 4 days, nothing happened. No whispers, no screams in terror, no anomalies whatsoever. The researchers were about to do a welfare check when they heard a muffled giggle ring over the speaker. It started soft, then it grew into a maniacal fit of laughter. The sensors showed no signs of distress. The researchers asked over the intercom if everything was all right. "It's trying hard not to be noticed." She went on to explain that the presence had not entered the room, but that it had always been there. "I've figured out how it works," she said. "The silence is how it hides. Noise pushes it back." When her laughter subsided, her heart rate slowed, her breathing became shallow. The same neural spike appeared as before. Recognition. When she spoke, her voice had changed, not in tone, but in direction. She wasn't speaking to the researchers anymore, she was speaking past them. "It doesn't like being named," she said. "It doesn't like when you notice the space it takes up." They asked her what it wanted. "Out," she said in a frightened tone, "and it's learned how to leave." The sensors suddenly detected a second rhythm in the room, slow, heavy, deep, as if something enormous had started to breathe. When the door finally opened, it wasn't because it unlocked, it was because the frame bent. Behind Subject 4, the wall bulged outward, curved like something had pushed against it from the inside with incredible force. Subject 4 was moved to an observation room, where she stayed for the remainder of her days. She never blinked again, and upon exposed to light, she would convulse and claw her face, ripping at her eyes. Within a few days, she had effectively blinded herself. After Subject 4, they decided it was best to stop the program. Not because of ethics, but because of containment failure. Every quiet room across the facility had begun reporting the same anomaly at the same time. A presence. Stationary, consistent, unmoving. But not isolated. It was everywhere. In every sealed cube, every dead zone, every space designed to remove input from the human mind. The readings were identical across all units, down to the millisecond spikes in neural activity recognition. The staff attempted a full shutdown of the monitoring network. That was when Subject 4, in observation, lifted her head without prompting. She pressed her face to the glass and smiled. "It was never inside the rooms," she said. "It was in the measurement." All the remaining sensors spiked at once. Not in fear, but of recognition. Across the facility, every feed went dark. No recording survived, only one final log entry remained. Subject 4, present.